Hello, Wild Rift Builders. Siege here for the patch breakdown. For the headlines, Xayah and Rakan coming this Valentine season. These two champions are sure to shake up the Rift with their flashy playstyle. Xayah is an ADC with a lot of single target DPS and AoE burst damage potential. She is immobile, but she has access to a root through her third ability, and her ultimate grants her a short window of invulnerability, so she has a lot of outplay potential, especially in this assassin meta. Meanwhile, Rakan is a highly mobile support with tons of utility. He has dashes, movement speed increase, knock-up, shielding, healing, and charms. He is a high impact support who can carry the team in his back through his utilities. Along with them comes a lot of new amazing skins. The replay and spectate functions are now out. Expect the competitive scene of Wild Rift to explode. Now for the main event, the champion tweaks. Corki is overtuned. Expect to see him at almost all your games, or better yet, abuse him while you can. He has now some bonkers damage scaling, rush Trinity Force, and decimate the enemy team starting the mid game. Meanwhile, Kennen is hit hard by the nerf hammer. The lower base AD and movement speed will make him harder for him to harass his lane opponents. If you hated him last patch, you can now easily defeat him using other oppressive Baron laners like Teemo or Darius. The nerf does not mean that he's out, but the lowered base damage and AP ratio on his ultimate will make it harder for him to burst down enemies, so maybe it's better to switch out your Infinity Orb and Rabadon's item build with the Leandris Torment and Ryla's Scepter build for more teamfight utility impact. Tristana also receives a huge buff to her abilities. Her mid game will now be popping off because of the high numbers in her explosive charge. I strongly believe that she can now play in a kill lane together with the likes of Alistar, Blitzcrank, and maybe Rakan in the near future, and her late game will now be one of the strongest thanks to the buff E and Q abilities. You will now see a lot more Twisted Fate in your ranked games thanks to his buff W pick card. His blue card's AP scaling is now scary high, allowing him one-shot access to most champions when he's ahead, and his yellow card's maximum stun duration is now 2 seconds. Nothing much you can do but to say your prayers once you're hit by that. Jarvan the Fourth received some minor buffs, but I still have doubts on whether he's going to see some playtime. He's still an edge pick, in my opinion. And I have the same opinions about Jax. I doubt that his buff will make him a stronger pick in this teamfight meta. I predict that he may be picked more as a jungler than as a Baron laner. Xayah is in a good place right now even before the adjustment. Her W is not usually evolved, and I doubt that the adjustment will change that. And finally, Yasuo. Yasuo is, well, Yasuo. He'll either be super strong or feeding the enemy team all game when he's your teammate. Expect to see more Yasuo players due to his buff, for better or for worse. For the items, Youmuu's is the primary first item choice of physical assassin snowballers like Zed, Lee Sin, Wukong, and Vi. The bonus magical damage on your auto attack after expending momentum is now gone, so I think Duskblade is the better first item choice right now. Deadman's Plate is practically unaffected, and say goodbye to Locket Enchant and Redeeming Enchant stacking. Before, you will always see team stacking Lockets against teamfight comps, especially when queuing as a 5-man stack. The patch will now treat Locket and Redeeming Enchant the way it does with the Heal Summoner spell, so there's no point in stacking it, because the subsequent effects will only be 50% effective. If your team is against a teamfight comp, it's now way better for your team to have one Locket and one Redeeming Enchant holder. For the gameplay changes, it's good that the Hand of Baron buff received a nerf for more chances of comeback, as killing Baron used to be a death sentence for the losing team. Rift Scuttlers will now spawn randomly at one side after its first spawn. I think that this is a great change because of how small Wild Rift's map is. The Rift Scuttlers accelerate the winning team's movement across the map and therefore aid their snowball. This change will increase the importance of Scuttlers but give more chance for the losing team as well. Other minor changes worth mentioning: you can now see the exact ping or latency in the user interface. You can now give bubbles, recalls, and emotes. Portrait lock is more customizable. Players will now receive more blue mode bonuses from the weekly activity chest. All in all, this patch is amazing. Props to Riot for their great work, and I am hyped for the upcoming changes in the following weeks and months. What do you think? Leave a comment below and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.